Let's talk about housing in Multnomah County, not the front end of the line like housing production, but the middle and the back end, rent prices and eviction. The latest rent report from Apartment List finds the overall median rent in the city of Portland comes to $1,566, about $1,400 for a one-bedroom apartment, nearly $1,700 for a two-bedroom. That puts the Rose City at number 40 among the nation's largest 100 cities. For the sake of comparison, number one is Irvine, California at nearly $3,000 a month. Closer to our region, Seattle is 16th with a median of about $2,000 a month. And Spokane, Washington, 81st at close to $1,200. Across the country, the average is right around $1,400. Looking over the past 12 months here at home, rent growth is actually down 1.7%. So 1.7% compared to May of 2023. At the same time, data from Evicted in Oregon shows an increase in the number of eviction cases over the last year in Multnomah County. The latest data that we have to compare from last year is from April. So April 2023, there were nearly 500, so 475 eviction cases filed in court. Fast forward to April of this year, there were 874 cases filed. Go back a month in March of this year, nearly 1,000. Also worth noting, that's close to half of all the cases filed in Oregon Circuit Court that month, which makes sense as Multnomah County is the state's most populous county. By that same data, more than a half of the landlords in the county, 56%, are represented by a lawyer. A wide majority are represented by someone, be it a lawyer or some other kind of legal agent. And you compare that to only 9% of tenants in the county. That is part of what researchers at Portland State University looked into back in 2022 and 23. In a report published earlier this year, they talked to 68 Multnomah County tenants in a series of focus groups. Each person had received an eviction notice, so a relatively small sample size, but worth looking at the data. And while their focus wasn't specifically about a rise in rent, Natalie Chichula with Portland State says it definitely did come up.
In our report, we do talk about one mother in particular who mentions that her eviction really came from a rental increase. She wasn't able to meet the new rent increase, and it resulted in these long-term, almost like cascading consequences. Like she had to get multiple jobs. She had to find accommodations for her kids because she couldn't find somewhere where everybody could stay in one place. And then again, there are other tenants who mentioned that it was the rent increase that really led to the eviction notice that they received.
And with that eviction notice, researchers say tenants developed a lot of symptoms like anxiety, depression, and sought medical assistance. What many did not seek in PSU's study was any of the eviction support services that are available, things like rent payment assistance or legal representation. Fewer than half, in fact. Just 29 of the 68 people tried to get help. Some within that group asked for resources, but then were not connected to any services. So ultimately, only a quarter of the tenants who tried to get help actually got any.
Yeah, I think as our report shows, it's really difficult for the tenants to access these forms of support. And some of it is, like the tenants will reach out to these organizations and the organizations don't contact them back. I think the other thing, though, is that tenants also, it's really difficult to, I think to be in the middle of an eviction and worry about the possibility of having to be displaced, and then while also trying to look for resources. And so I think it just puts tenants in a really difficult position to have to do multiple things at once. Again,
she says add things in like language barriers, discrimination, and an overall lack of resources by the groups trying to help tenants. And you have a real system where people are not aware of the ways they can fight an eviction notice. And so more than half of those in the focus group said they vacated their home to avoid trouble with the legal system or their landlord. Cholula told us that from the outset, their goal with this research is to find avenues to end homelessness. So with their report, the researchers made some recommendations, creating programs that reach out to tenants before they make a desperate decision. A rent relief program in Texas claimed success by sending out mailers to low-income households statewide that were translated into multiple languages. Other recommendations include create eviction navigation programs where tenants seeking help can talk to a real person. Also, establish a tenant right to counsel to guarantee legal representation for tenants facing eviction. Now, that last idea, by the way, was rejected by Multnomah County voters last year through a ballot measure. Measure 26238 would have levied a 0.75 capital gains tax to pay lawyers to represent tenants facing eviction. That was roundly rejected by voters, with just over 80% of the county voters saying, no, thank you. So if a tenant's right to counsel is seen as a way to help, clearly yet another tax in Multnomah County is not the way to pay for it. But the issue does remain. Multnomah County has the highest rate of renter-occupied housing in the state at about 46%, and the most eviction cases across Oregon. Couple that with the reported health impacts of going through an eviction that researchers found, and the PSU team makes the case that increasing funding to emergency programs like rental assistance is actually a public health investment. What do you think about that approach? I know a few of you watching are landlords. Share your thoughts with us, will you? Email us, the address again, thestory@kgw.com, or call and leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090. Keep it right here. We're coming back right after this.